Viva After 8 Hours. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and tots, or whatever. After 8 Hours is back. So quickly, you say? Yes, we just got back from Vegas not that long ago.
True that.
I had to go tour Hoenn. Hoenn out. Let's go.
Yes.
Your illustrious guests. Sorry, hosts.
Mm-hmm.
We did have an illustrious guest. .manx.
Yes.
Zach. I was hoping you'd join us. But anyway,
Aww,
your illustrious hosts,
would have been dope.
JackJack, 1620.
Hi.
1620, that's right.
Yes.
And JayTi7N. How's it going?
It's good. I thought I'd be more exhausted after the amount of walking we did in Vegas.
It was a little bit.
And I was actually pretty good. I think I maybe had like 1 or 2 blisters after it, but like it wasn't as bad as like it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think it also helped that we didn't have like the epic winds of Chicago
or the
thunderstorms. Yeah. I got to keep my shoes.
Like, yeah, we didn't have to throw our shoes in the fucking Shadow Realm.
Yes, but how about you?
I'm doing good. I don't know, man. I felt like I was dead yesterday. I was really tired. I was just like, oh. And then even today, kind of getting back into it, I was just like, I had moments where I'm like, okay, I'm energized, I'm doing things. And the same thing yesterday, like moments where I was energized and doing things. But in my down times, I was like, I'm just going to nap. Or I'm just like,
it was
tired.
definitely a perfect lazy Monday.
So I was just like, But anyway, I felt good. Again, the actual day... and I've had knee and foot issues, ankle issues. Didn't feel like I had to sit down all that much.
Your neck, your back, your pussy, and neck.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shouts to Hoka 11s or whatever, that shoe company. I think that's what they're called. Those shoes are fucking.
The shoes that you had.
My shoes are they're so good. Like my feet are fine right now. My knees aren't hurting.
Hey.
My ankles are good. Obviously that night, just kind of gingerly scooting around because I think it was like 20,000 steps, etc.
Yeah, we walked a
good amount of walking. But I was feeling pretty good. So again, shouts to Hoka 11.
For me, it was New Balance. Yeah, New Balance kept me sane.
You were doing it, man, and we were doing good. And the first day we got there real early. We weren't sure if our hotel would be ready. So we get there, we hit this bomb-ass breakfast place called Eggworks. I keep wanting to say Egg Slut, and I know Egg Slut's a different restaurant, but Eggworks, it's across from the park. So we got there in the morning,
Sunset Park.
And we're sitting there, and it's like the morning before, so it's Friday morning.
The calm before
the event was going to be on Saturday and Sunday. We were there at 8, we got there at like 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish, and we were sitting there, and we ate breakfast and we kind of just chilled out for a while and we're like, hey, it's not that busy, maybe we can come here in the morning
tomorrow.
we thought
Foolish.
Anyway, and then we're like, you know what, our hotel's not that far, it's like 2 miles or whatever, we'll just hopefully we got time to kill. We did. We did really have time to kill. The nice thing was, even though it's still winter time and it is in the desert, weather was nice. Like it was in the beautiful 50s, 60s. It was perfectly warm with a nice little chill to it. Didn't feel like we had to wear our jackets or anything until after the sun went down. It started getting a little chillier.
It's like almost immediate.
Yeah, the sun's just like, oh, bye, bitch, and you're just like, oh shit, it got cold all of a sudden. But during the event, even on our walk over to the hotel, that 2-mile walk or whatever, it was pretty walkable. I wouldn't recommend if you're going to live there, you're going to walk everywhere. No, likely not the case.
There were not sidewalks everywhere like you would hope.
Yeah, we got some sidewalk, and then there's just some interesting businesses along the way. Again, it's Vegas. That was my first time being there, and I think your second time. But
correct.
Last time you went, you were mainly on the Strip, right?
Mainly
Strip.
And it was like a decade ago.
It's different.
So not being on the Strip, we had driven through just to do things or just see what's up. And I had been through Vegas another time, but I was just passing through. We just filled up gas. That's why I don't really consider that a trip. But it was definitely nice to see the local businesses because that was what we were there to support. Yeah. In terms of food, of course.
Yeah.
But
shouts to Keith Lee.
Yeah. His recommendations were dope, and we only got to see 2 out of the 6 that I had written down. And there's even more than that, but I was just trying to get the top contenders that looked fucking bomb.
But we definitely got the 2 biggest ones, at least from I remember the 2 that I really wanted to go to. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I still want to go to the other ones, and we'll go back. We'll try those out. Maybe have a little bit more time, a little bit more flexibility in our transportation. We did end up using a Lyft.
Thank you, Lyft. You guys were awesome.
It was more affordable than I thought it would be. Still technically cheaper than renting a car, but we were also pretty pretty stuck in our places. Is like, hey, we want to be smart about it. We're going to lift to one area, we'll stay around there. We'll lift to another area, we'll stay there. Versus if we had a car, be like, oh, that's not bad. We can just drive over there.
Drive
XYZ. So a little bit of different, but our main goal was Pokemon and the food, especially outside the strip. So I actually still haven't been to the strip really. Don't know what that experience is like. We'll experience it eventually.
I hear it's kid friendly, which I'm just opposed to. And so I hope it goes back to being more just for adults. Like, yeah. I still remember when I first went there, they were giving out like all sorts of adult entertainment cards, almost like Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And you would just have stuff like half nudie photos of people, and I was like, "Oh, bet, keep this in my pocket."
Bunny Ranch, shit like that. Like that's prominent on the show, or used to be. I don't know what it is,
it probably
but I know that
anymore.
Because I knew people that went. They'd bring them back, like, "Hey, check these cards out!" Like, oh, it's so funny, and it's like, wow, that's wild. It's the nickname is the City of Sin. Don't think that's really kid friendly. I get it. Entertainment venues want to make money, so bring your kids or whatever.
Whack.
But it's just like kids have Disneyland and Disney World
and Universal Studios
and Universal. Like they have theme parks and everything.
What is that? Busch Gardens.
Yeah,
and Elitch's.
You have
and Waterworld.
They have
everything.
Very family friendly stuff. Vegas can be an adult friendly centric whatever.
Yes,
that's fine. We did joke that we're kind of surprised that they just haven't opened up like a secondary kid friendly strip, like it's a Disney strip or something, or like you said, Universal. I could see that happening in the like a dystopian future, but anyway,
dystopian.
But no, Vegas, like I said, the weather was great. We were there for a couple of reasons. We'll do other experiences later, so we'll get into some of the Pokemon stuff here in a little bit. But I just want to run through. Went to the Eggworks place again. We thought we could maybe meet up. We even posted on the thing, hey, check out Eggworks. This shit is bomb. It was bomb. The portions were great. Everything was cooked perfectly.
Solid.
So good. So anyway, get to our hotel. Chris is with us immediately because we weren't sure they'd be ready for us, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to wait. You're not even supposed to check in until 3, even though you did the early check-in. I did early check-in, which is at noon. We were there at 10 in the morning. They're like, "Oh, we might have a room ready." Sure, shit, it's 217, and that's Chris's number. So shouts to Chris. We were happy. I was really happy about that. I had a little man tear in my eye, but essentially, got there, chilled out. Got to experience it, and we were ready to hit it in the morning. Met up with Dotman X, Zach, gang. We're like, hey, meet us at Eggworks. Get there. We get there, and like
it's just
the line is out the door. They're like, how long is it going to be? At least an hour wait. And then we were there about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours before the event was going to start.
Yeah.
So we're like, that's not enough time. Let's just hop over.
And just kind of overhearing people as we once we hopped over to McDonald's and eventually got our food 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
They did spectacular.
Shouts to those.
If they're listening, you guys kicked ass. I'm sorry about the player base that was there, because I'm not going to say all the players, but I'll say it's always that 10% or 2%, whatever it is. The 2%, I'll keep it at that. That just does us bad, and they give they talk shit, they're rude as fuck.
Yeah, for real.
They were kind of showing their ass a little bit by getting impatient.
Well, we saw that. So we saw it there, and we saw it throughout the park throughout the day. Everywhere, every time we go anywhere, you're gonna see.
Yeah, there was someone. I'm just like, come on.
Similarly, on our flight home, and the what I'm getting to is the entitlement.
That man child.
People get
fuck that dude.
I don't know what it is. If people just have to go to apathy school or something, or really just be put in those situations, I can't imagine being with the McDonald's workers. I'm glad no one raised their voices or anything while we were in there. There's still a bit of entitlement and everything that.
Oh yeah, I could hear customers talking shit.
No one's.
How come they weren't ready for us?
Yeah, no one's yelling.
No one's gonna prepare for you, bitch.
But even the manager, you heard in the back, the manager's like, "We're not robots. We're humans. We're trying."
Yes.
It's and I understand that. So again, shouts to them for that, because we even talked about it. It's you wonder if Niantic, they knew they were going to put this event on. They knew there was businesses right there.
Oh yeah,
and that would be a hotspot if they warned these people.
We even talked about it even on the Friday, because I was like, "Where's the traffic control for this?" Because that's obviously I'm in construction. For those of you who don't know, roadway construction. So that's one thing I noticed. I was like, they don't have much signage out here. That's not good, because I knew the level. I anticipated the level, and I was pretty much spot on with the sheer volume of people coming in and out. Traffic was a nightmare.
Oh gosh.
So again, the Lyft drivers who were going into the park and helping out players who were being inconsiderate Like, you are God's blessings, and thank you for doing that. I'm not going to apologize for those asinine people, but thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no, we had
dealing with them if you had horrible people.
Yeah, we had some good lift experience or good drivers too.
Yeah, they were solid.
Especially shouts to Marcel, our first driver. He was really good on it. He
was
dope. But yeah, no, like I said, inside the park, we were leaving for the day. Inside the park, it was like a $10 difference just to be like across the street. It was insane to me. But anyway, so we can go into a little bit of the actual GOTOUR Hoenn. So we got there a little bit early before everything started, and we kind of just stayed around. We had
got a lay of the land.
There were some maps laid out. We saw some of the maps. We didn't see, which I thought was a lot more fun. There's a Spinda map. Apparently, there was a map that showed you. So Hoenn, 3rd generation, Ruby Sapphire. You had to pick Ruby or Sapphire.
Yes,
which is pretty fun in the whole thing. But anyway, you got there, and so there's a huge map. And when we walked on Friday, we were walking past the park. I'm like, bro, this park is fucking massive.
It's that'll be one of my good, bad, or ugly comments. It's just the sheer size of that fucking park.
It was massive. And again, we did a lot of walking, and it was for a reason. We walked with purpose or anything like that. But anyway, park was massive. Figured it would be pretty big. It's bigger than Olympic Park in Seattle. For those of you that went to that Go Fest, which was just crazy. I think it was bigger, more spread out even than the one in Chicago.
Chicago was just a solid block.
Yeah, and you're just going up.
But
and
it was separated by each of the streets, which was nice because each of those streets had food vendors on them.
Yes.
So they were super spread out, way more vendors. We'll comment on that more. But like this park was just it was more of a square as opposed to a rectangle.
Yeah.
With a lot of intersections, a lot of crossing cars to split up kind of the environments. And that was interesting. And I thank the flaggers that were there.
Yeah.
Because again, like having to coordinate that's a lot of money too. People don't think about like when it comes to the expenditures that Niantic had to do to secure that spot.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's construction going on. There's obviously just locals wanting to use the park because some of the locals were definitely there and like super confused at what was happening, but having traffic control for that, having to coordinate the food trucks, having to coordinate for all the social media presence that was there, the speaker systems and intercoms that were going on during the event, there was a lot.
There's a lot that went into it, and like I think they did an okay job. And we'll talk about this.
Yes.
There's some people.
We're trying to give like an overview of
definitely better. Some things were I think they could definitely use improvement on. But yeah, it's not like you can just go, hey, I'm going to rent this park for the day, and it's all set up for you.
Like I think about our events, like when we do the barbecue. Like the barbecue is easy because it's like rent a pavilion. Yeah. Make sure we have 2 grills, have some chairs, and talk about food.
Exactly.
But if I had to check out like the entire Meadowood area and be like, I need control of the parking. I need to be like, this is the access points. I'm getting food vendors down there. I need to contact all that. Like that's a lot.
Well,
so
and they did, one thing, and we went on Saturday, which is the busier day.
And it's the first day.
It's the first day, the busier day. One thing, and you saw it, like local news was reporting on it, like, oh, it expects to bring thousands of players in, and like Niantic has a certain control over that just based on how many tickets they sell.
Correct.
They get a general idea. I don't think they were ready for the amount of people that were there. Were so
that
many
legitimately showed up.
So many people over there. Like I said, I felt like there was more people there than Go Fest Chicago when we went. More people in Vegas. Again, I get it. It's a nicer weather technically. It's a great time to be. It was perfect to be outside.
White people were still burning though. I will put that out there right now.
There's a lot of lobsters.
Yes,
but walking lobsters.
For the pale ones.
Yeah. I mean, Zach was doing good. Like he
did good. He even had a regiment.
A timer set up for like,
his heart.
Shit, I got to do...
he's like, sunscreen check.
Cover myself in sunscreen, etc.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, it was like I said, I just don't think they were ready for that many people. There were so many fucking people.
Yes.
And we can get into that a little bit. But just like the whole park layout was massive, bigger than Wash Park here. And like, but it was interesting because the park had, like, felt like renovated in the past few years. There's a lot of walking paths. I think they did pretty well.
They were still adding parts to the park, which I think confused some people.
Yeah.
Because there'd be zones where stops were, but the park still continued where the Pokemon stopped at.
Yeah, because there was like,
and there'd be like gyms passing through. Like, is that part of it? But it's like you walk over there, you're not going to get any spawns, but you just walk 5 more minutes south, and you're going to get them.
Basically, an invisible barrier for the play area. So, like, one instance was, they broke out the maps, and maybe you guys have seen it, but there's a couple of biomes, and we talked about it in the past couple of episodes, but, like, there's, like, the Ancient Shores, for instance. It was, like, the far eastern part is almost secluded by itself, and it was more, like, in the middle part of the park. There's a giant swale or chunk of stuff up to the north that they had just recently added that wasn't part of the play area, and the only reason we knew that was because looking at the map, they highlighted where the actual play area was, but then they had like a little sandwich board that said entering Ancient Shores, on the other side it said exiting Ancient Shores or whatever. But outside of that, like, you could very easily just walk up to that northern part of that area and think that you're playing, but you're not. There's the other thing is, like, the park itself, we went there before the event started, no stops. There's like 5-ish.
It was anyone who was there, which again gets into the further comments. There's nothing to offer. Like, I scoped it out while we're at the Eggworks place, and there was like 5 or 6 gyms, but so spread out, it wouldn't be worth even going.
And like 2 of them were in that play area I just mentioned that were outside of the actual play area. There's literally no reason to be there.
And there's no stops. Like, even before the game started, because all of us flooded there, and like the lines are already starting for the merch stores.
Yeah.
As soon as we got there, people were getting ready.
The line was massive.
The line was massive. Like, it looked like, it made me think of Us, like where they're all linking arms and they're just like a giant line. That's what I thought of. Yes, that's what I thought of when I saw that line, because it was like already starting. And I already told myself, like, I'm not gonna get shit. I don't care about merch. I think Niantic always keeps dropping the ball on that for some reason. And we'll get to that, but the line itself, I was like, it's not worth my time to wait. So I saw it, acknowledged it, and just kept it pushing.
Yo, those people were in line for at least 2 to 3 hours.
Easy.
Yeah.
But that's where, again, if your priority is a t-shirt as opposed to Pokemon and all that, that's your prerogative, not mine.
Yeah. Shouts to you, I suppose.
I guess getting into the good, I know, like, I have a little listing I'll kind of quickly run through. Do you want to just cover like good first, then bad, then ugly?
Yeah, and then I have some comments,
and then like recommendations,
like an overall comments at the end. So let's start with some good. First of all, again, not in the control of Pokemon or Niantic or whatever. Weather was perfect.
Weather was gorgeous.
It was great. I think the park was nice. I was going to just add on, like, it's one of those parks, like, again, while you're playing the event, they add all the stops and they can control zones and where things spawn, etc. That was interesting to me. But anyway, it would not be, if you lived in Vegas, it wouldn't be like, oh, let's go to Sunset Park to go spin stops and there's literally, when we say there's nothing there, there's basically nothing there. The park is massive. It's kind of weird that there's not a lot more stops, but I get it. Yeah. Anyway, so some of the good. The weather was perfect. Perfect playing weather. We had good company. Me, you, and Zach trolling around, doing our thing. It was a lot of fun. I was honestly surprised I didn't run into more Aurora folks, because I know you guys were out there. Yeah, we knew people were out there, but we just didn't run into them. We did see... we saw some of the YouTubers. I think we saw Trainer Tips.
Yeah,
Nick.
He was there. He was chill.
I saw a few.
Most of the kids recognized them. Like, I saw one kid. He was just. You could tell he was on cloud 9. She's like, "Oh my god, it's you!" And the trainer's like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Can I get a photo?" And Dad's like, "Hey, do you mind if I get a photo?" And like, they seem pretty chill outside of like the booths that Niantic had set up for them.
Yeah, they had like this whole ordeal set up to like meet and greet prominent trainers.
That shit was weird.
Kind of weird to put people on a pedestal like that, but I get it. Anyway, so some more of the good. And I don't know if you want to go ahead and get started here too.
So
we can comment.
For me, it was like the shiny rates. I think at the end of the night, because there were some issues with the lag and stuff, so they extended the hours for those of you who don't know.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
So it ended at 10, but the original time ended around like 6. I think I ended with like 22 shinies, which is pretty good. 22 on my main, and I think like 16 on Chris's account. And again, me playing on 2 phones simultaneously, I wouldn't recommend it to people
no, it was
unless
tough. Like half the time I was like, bro, I should just take Jack's other phone so he can focus a little bit, and I can we can split the secondary,
split the load,
because it's just like you were doing a lot. And
it was that coordinating the batteries.
Yeah, my dumbass, I don't have it here, but I had my battery charging ready to go, and I just forgot it at home.
Yeah, so
he had the battery. I know Zach had a battery. We were just like, "Hey, can I use your battery? I need to charge all this other shit."
Here you go.
So the shiny. Well, we'll make a note on the shiny rates. So, towards the beginning of the day, it felt like it took a bit to kick in.
It did,
because one of the things they had throughout, because again, Spinda is a Hoenn Pokemon from Gen 3. Mm-hmm. They had the Spinda stops, because remember, to get Spinda, you got to spin the stop, and it'll be like chilling or whatever. But anyway, so they had 8 different stops around the entire park.
Yes.
For Spinda.
Yes.
And one of the missions was find and collect all 8 Spinda stops, and then you'll get an encounter with each pattern Spinda, and then you turn those in to get the 9th one, which is the heart one.
Right.
And you can each of those can be shiny, because every Pokemon you run into can be shiny. So
every single one in each of the different habitats.
So my first Spinda was shiny, and I was like, oh shit, are they all going to be shiny? That would be sick. But anyway, but that was the first shiny, and the only shiny I had for a minute, and that's when I made that comment. I think you guys remember. I was sitting there, I was like, how do you feel about the shiny rates?
Yeah,
because I wasn't feeling it at first.
I think that was within the first hour,
about 2 hours, but okay. I felt like I was getting reminiscent from Go Fest Chicago, when I think I walked away with 4 shinies, or whatever, and I was just like, how are you feeling? I don't know about these rates.
About that?
There's a lot of shinies I wanted from this event, and then they just after spoke it into existence. It kicked up, and then I was getting the Cacneas and each of the primals. I got a lot of the shinies I wanted, including the Relicanth and the Torkoal. You got the Tropius.
I did get Tropius.
So it's there's a lot of
banana.
So the shiny rates I think kicked up later on, especially, and then especially at night, when we were just kind of
when I was playing. Casual play, I got 6. Just while I was eating dinner.
And 6 good ones, not just throwaways. There's another
shiny Rayquaza. Yeah, it was dope. So
that was one.
I liked the bonuses for the raid and egg or hatching add-ons. I think was great.
I think they were worth it.
They were
a little, because they're $15 each or something like that. A little pricey. I kind of wish it was maybe 10, but either way, I think it ended up being worth it. The egg one specifically, I was there. My main goal was for the regionals that were only in 10Ks.
Yes.
And those are the only Pokemon in 10Ks.
And it prioritized you getting 10Ks.
So, this pass, lets you basically, you see more 10Ks. Mm-hmm. And I was happy with that, because I didn't want the 2Ks. I didn't really want the 5Ks, even though the 5Ks had stuff like the Gulpin or the Surskit or whatever.
Gulpin, Surskit, and I think Cacnea.
But so some of the new shinies during the event. So I was okay-ish with 5Ks, but I just wanted 10Ks. So I bought the Egg Slut Pass, and it worked well for me. I hatched 92 eggs.
Yeah, I was definitely, I think, because I was trying to dual phone it, I only did 60 because I was trying to jump between accounts, but that was my choosing, obviously.
I hatched 92 eggs, and I want to say at least 80 of them were 10Ks. Yeah. So I did what I wanted, and I ended up, like I said, a couple of shiny Relicanth, a shiny Torkoal, got a lot of Relicanth, Torkoal, and Tropius, and that's what I mainly wanted. So walking away from that, I felt like it was worth it for me.
Oh yeah, and then for the raids, to me, the sheer volume of them was high. Obviously, there was issues like we mentioned, but just doing the raids, I enjoyed. The only thing I would recommend to do better is make them easier to catch. I think I took a lot of time doing that. Aside from those add-ons, the other things I enjoyed was support for local business, of course. Raiding after hours I thought was dope.
It was really good.
Because I was getting invites from the strip from Armin. I forgot, it's 1771, I believe.
Yeah.
But I was getting invites from them on the strip and other people on the strip, and it was actually easier to do those remote raids and do the ones in the park for a lot of reasons that we'll get to. I think they did a better job with the merch booths, because there was a couple of them, not just one centralized
one. Not just one major booth. There's a couple of booths.
So that was nice. Like we mentioned, having influencers out and about, I thought was dope, because they obviously want to play too. They're not they're not like celebrities, but they definitely had celebrity treatment, which I don't know if they like wanted exactly, or if Niantic was just like, we're gonna give you this.
Like Niantic sponsored them to come out, so it felt like, hey, come on out, because we know you have 1 million followers.
Right. The other thing, I thought the decor and inflatables were awesome.
Those were so cool. Like the actual zones and how they built them out was really cool.
So in Ancient Shores, there was like a lighthouse, and there was like little rocket tents, and there was like a mudkip in the area that you can see in the, what was it, the Verdant Forest, or...
So there's a Verdant Earth.
Verdant Earth, okay.
Yeah.
There was a Trico, right?
There's the Trico, yeah.
Trico and like a volcano.
Just a volcano.
With like an actual like little steady hut thing that was there for like the professors. Yeah.
And when the volcano was tall, it was
huge.
Was
gigantic.
Like, these weren't just like, oh, haha, that's
like cute little.
Like even the lighthouse, it was
tall.
Coming up on it, and you're like, you could see it over trees and stuff. And I was like, hey, yo, that's kind of interesting. Is that part of the park? No, they built that. They
constructed all that.
Did it for Ancient Shores.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. The volcano was cool.
I know in like the Erie Mist, I noticed like they had a bunch of wind chimes hanging in the trees, and I was like, oh shit, like I just happened to notice when we're like one of the moments where we're catching our breath, and I was just looking up like, oh,
that one was a little more
because it's like where all the chime echoes were.
Yeah.
There was like over in the desert region, there was a torchic.
Yeah.
And I think the park just had its own natural decor, so they like fused it well with a lot of that. And what else was there? I know like they had the tents for like all the social gathering. I feel like we adamantly stayed away from that, which I was glad we did, because the last time when we did that in Chicago was dope because they had them by teams. So you can see Instinct, Valor, Mystic. This one was just kind of a collective, like they were just meeting social spots.
Lounges and like a trading post. They had those things, and so like we talked about, they had signs of if you needed to trade, and people walked around, so you saw people looking for certain Pokemon, trying to trade and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. I think what they did, the decor and kind of again the setting of the park was really good.
Yes.
Because it felt like the desert versus like some like the Ancient Shores.
It's definitely could feel the difference.
Distinctively different, and I loved that. So it felt a little bit more immersive. The zones were huge, and kind of silly that I get it. You know, certain Pokemon only spawned in each zone, so that's why we walked 1 billion miles for certain things. And part of that has to do with the structure of the quests.
Oh my!
So it's like, oh, you finish one quest, and it doesn't retroactively see the shit that you've already done.
That's what I consider one of the bad.
So you just we'll get into that in a little bit. Yes. But anyway, the actual setting was great.
Yes.
The weather was great with that. So playing felt great. And again, we kind of alluded to it, but we did have some connectivity and some issues, and we get into that into the bad. But what's the next kind of good that you came away with?
The last one I had for good was the calms in the park. So I think the Niantic staffing did a good job. And then, again, if they're all volunteer, like God bless you, like I want it. But when there would be certain things like, oh, Ruby won this hour, were all the raids in the area going to be Kyogre or whoever Pokemon was going to be focused, they would light these flares. If you didn't like smoke, maybe that wasn't for you. But at least
fireworks,
they smell like fireworks. I thought people were burning sparklers everywhere, and I was like, "We're in the desert, bitch! Like, what are you doing?" But I like the calms about it because you heard it everywhere. I just kind of wish, like, and they did that for like some of the lags, like, hey, raid times will be extended to blah.
Yeah, so they had
that over the comms as opposed to like in Chicago where we didn't find that out. We heard it via Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter or
if
word
you
of
happen
mouth.
To have it, or you just talk to a random trainer. But like,
dude, the speakers were fucking.
The speakers were loud, but that's where there was also, and that kind of like gets into
into the bad. Okay,
into some areas.
What I'll say with the good on that part is like you said, I think the communication ended up really nice. Just in general. The other thing that I was appreciative of, though it took us a second to find, was like the water stations. For instance.
God,
having those out there and the way they were. When they first said, "Oh, this is going to be water fill stations," I was a little scared because I was like, "Is it just going to be like a hose sticking out of the ground, or there'll be
people Karens would have complained about that."
Yeah,
too.
But I mean, like, I also just felt like it would be like basically a portable water fountain, and that it would take forever, and there'd only be like one. No, it's like these are gigantic water fill stations that got into the water, city water or whatever, but it went through like a triple filter reverse osmosis system. So the water was actually good.
Yes.
Better than our hotel water. It was actually good. And they had 4 high-powered nozzles. Now, it was funny because you're sitting there like,
God bless those people.
Doing free work.
They didn't even know how to operate.
It's like, hey, bro, there's a sensor at the bottom.
Yeah. So word of advice to anyone who operates anything, if you don't know the device, just take a second to analyze it. Look for something that looks weird. Like if there's a black piece of glass or something that looks like a sensor or something that just doesn't match the rest of the aesthetic.
Yeah.
You could wave your hand in front of it to test things. Don't just put your glass up and expect some magic to happen.
Yeah, they're like, where's the water at?
Yeah.
It's like,
systems are basic.
You see that sensor down? They're like tapping the fucking faucets and
there's
shit. They're
nothing.
Like, is it touch active? Where's it at?
Yeah.
It's like there's a giant black sensor.
Yes.
On the back of you see it right there.
Yeah. So like Justin said, they got a lot of free work out of me because I just wave it for people or politely be like, "Hey, here you go,"
or whatever. Because we were filling it, we were taking a little rest.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of silly to me. I was like, I don't know where these people would be without Jack at the time. That's what I was thinking because it was just like
there's a lot of struggle there, unnecessarily.
But I was appreciative. There was that one. There was at least 2 stations. I think they probably could have done with another one.
They should have had one in each one.
But I feel like it was probably dealt with. I don't know where the water tie-ins are.
Yeah, in the desert, that makes perfect sense.
But yeah, no, it was that was really cool. I like that. And again, the communications. Another good thing, and I don't know where this is at on your list. The spawns. Obviously, the spawns were good. Mm-hmm. But one thing I did like to see, and we talked about it, was because it felt like it wasn't advertised enough. The wild Latios.
That was gonna get to the ugly for me.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that, but I will say the good half of that, or the good part of that, was just seeing it in the wild.
Well, they were more catchable than the legendary beasts.
Yeah.
AKA the legendary dogs.
Yeah. From
the prior.
Now, what I'm hoping is they have an event that just has the Galarian birds like that.
They will,
because they've been so difficult to find. Anyway, But like Latios, it's just nice seeing legendary Pokemon, especially roaming ones like Latios, the legendary beasts out in the wild. Now they should stay out in the wild forever.
And the fact that like, everyone could see it, so you knew a Latios was around because someone would yell, Latios, including myself, Latios, right over here, and then everyone. That's where you could tell the congregations of people because they were trying to catch certain
That was
things.
pretty good. I still wish we got a little bit diversity in some of the spawns, like some of the evolutions of some of these Pokemon.
Yeah, it's like Swaylat and all of them should have been out.
Yeah, it was still basically expected. You catch the base form, you evolve it all the way up or something like that. Yeah. Would have been really cool. And I get why they did the... they wanted to sell the egg slut passes, and they wanted to make sure you did 10Ks, but it would have been kind of nice, like if they in each region they had like a regional Pokemon or something, like in the Verdant Earth or in Ancient Shores, Relicanth's there. In the Verdant Earth, Tropius is there.
That should have been there.
In the desert, Torkoal is there.
The recommendation, boys.
Stuff like that. That would have been nice to see. Again, this is kind of getting into the bads or like an in between here, but like some of
the bad is something that is just a small tweak to where it could be better.
Some of I just would have some spawn diversity would have been really nice, but I did like seeing, like I said, legendaries out in the wild. It's always super fun, and like overall. That stuff was pretty nice. So let's go ahead and get into the bad for now.
Yeah.
And we'll still have I have a lot bigger discourse after everything's said and done.
Again, like Justin's saying, the bad is kind of like the middle ground in this because it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So ugly is like, God damn, you need some work.
Is that a Western reference for us being in the desert?
Yes.
Shouts to Westerns, love that genre. Gang.
So the bad I noted for myself was the lag at the raids.
Oof.
So with so many people there, I would estimate there was at least 12,000 plus there. Easy.
Oh my gosh. I'd almost say more, but there's a ton.
Yeah.
Of people
so
there.
When the raids started at the beginning, no one's able to join. I think we all restarted our phones at least 5 times for a couple of the internal raids to where eventually, like I mentioned, it just became easier to raid outside. And then they also just kind of, Niantic likes to always add things without telling people. So like your Kyogre or Groudon would have like Las Vegas in the background, but it had like some graphic that showcase, my phone was just glitching.
Yeah, it's like that. It looked like it ripped the screen in half or something.
Yeah, I was like what's happening?
And so it's supposed to be like a fancy new animation. I still think there should be a way to turn certain things on and off.
Yes.
Like stuff like that. Because again, it just ended up fucking up people's phones more often.
I ended up following your idea with taking off the native refresh rate.
Yeah, I had to go back down to 30 FPS to make it work.
I think that
better.
made a world of difference.
Because like when we were playing at the native refresh rate of our screens, which is 60 plus FPS, it's 120 on a lot of newer
your phones are working.
So they're working, they're doing quick, they're trying to load everything, and they're trying to load it at, again, 60 frames per second at least. So that's double the amount of data, double the amount of shit that's trying to pop up on your screen. And it felt like it was taxing the device, especially when it's still trying to connect to bogged down service.
Yes.
That, like, we went back down to 30 FPS or whatever. And yes, it was a little bit straining on the eyes if you're used to the smoother version of it. But, like, that was the only way for our games to work better.
Yeah. The other thing was just limited food trucks. Again, I had higher hopes from Chicago.
Yeah.
So obviously this is going to be a mixed review, but there was a lot of parking lots that I was hoping they would prioritize just food trucks being there instead of allowing people to park there.
They just carved out one little area.
Yes. It was like a little like a little diamond.
They did a little circle of food trucks. And there were, like I said, there were way too many people, I think, or they just weren't ready for it. Each of those food truck lines was about 2 hours long.
And it was right by the playground.
Right by the playground. So I understand they set out tables.
Yes.
They want, you're here with your kids. We'll get into that in a little bit. But it's essentially, they had them across. So they had each line ran across from one side of the field to the other. And in each of these food trucks, it got to the point where there was a food truck that was at the end of the circle. They were sold out completely. Like they had everything packed up, but they weren't allowed to leave. Like they were stuck in this circle. So they were just just chilling there.
They're just watching business go by.
They couldn't get more stuff in. They couldn't do anything. Every other line, like I was there, and I heard people towards the front of the line, like finally getting there. Someone would come out. They put like sold out of this item, and the person's like, I've been standing here for an hour 30 hoping to get that item, and they're sold out. So it's just
that would have broken my heart.
It was not worth it. Like
I think that's why I didn't even walk over there. I was like, "Fuck this!"
Like we went there. I was frustrated at this point because the game wasn't working well for me.
Yeah.
I had connectivity issues. The game was lagging out. Raids were impossible. Essentially, it got to the point where I could tap on maybe 2 or 3 Pokemon before my game just stopped working.
Oh yeah,
and again, Zach had the same issues. There's like a 30-minute stretch of time I could not access my game. It wouldn't start. It wouldn't restart. Restarted the phone. Cleared all the cache. Cleared everything. Restarted all
airplane mode out of airplane mode.
Everything we could think of. And Zach's in this industry. He does those things, and he does it daily for other people too. Mm-hmm. He couldn't get it to work for a long time. It was like a 30-minute stretch, and I was super frustrated. I was missing out on more Latios. I was missing out on a lot more other Pokemon that I was trying to catch. And then we were out by the food. We ate McDonald's breakfast, not a ton of food, and we had already been walking a good amount, so I was a little hungry. I could definitely truck it out for the rest of the day or whatever, but I was like, I could go for food, and I went.
Thank God for that little Mexican food truck.
Going through the food truck,
a little food cart,
going through the food truck lines, and I was like, this is fucking impossible.
Yeah,
you guys went under a tree. I caught back up with you guys, and I was like, nah, that's not even fucking worth it. But anyway, so that was, I would consider, in terms of the planning department, some of the other stuff we talked about was great. That aspect, not so great.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like you said, it was the saviors for a lot of people were like little Mexican food carts.
They really were.
The bicycle food carts.
Yeah.
They knew. They posted up on that entry parking lot. There was like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, yeah. The lines were short.
Area. Even those had lines, but they were pretty short. They were quick. And that was one of those things I was going to say where you came in clutch. It was like, bring cash. Because those guys only operate on cash. And that was the only way we were able to get some food. So I got some hot Cheetos elotes, and then Zach got exactly what he wanted. But it's just like they were the saviors, and now I guarantee Niantic wasn't like, "Hey, we want all the Mexican food carts in here."
They just saw the business,
hey, there's a billion people there. We can get some business. So like again, there are saviors, but again, they had so many other parking lots and areas. I feel like at least 3 different of the areas, these zones, could have had their own food truck areas, and that would have helped to disperse people. Even if the central parking lot by the
by the playground was for parking. There's still the north parking zone over by the ancient shores, and the southern parking zone, or half of the parking zone near the desert, could have been at least another 10 or 20 food trucks.
And yes, that's 10 or 10 other people that can't park their cars there, whatever.
So what?
Not everyone in there was going to be able to park a car there anyway.
And you
saw that.
And I think that's where part of the bad, I think, was, and I'm not saying anything bad about you or Zach, but in terms of preparation for that, I noticed a lot of people were in their cars, and it reminded me of the players who car play here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? And then in my mind, I'm like, are they using it because their batteries are dead?
Charging their phone and stuff?
And I'm like, again, this is the prime time to get a battery pack. Because my 3 packs lasted the 3 of us and still had juice at the end.
Absolutely.
And I maybe spent $50 max on all those. And those lasted because every charging station we went to or passed by was flooded with people.
And that's what I was going to say.
Holy crap.
They had power stations, and they had quite a few of them.
A lot.
Because they were hooked up to mobile generators, essentially.
Yes.
But still, it wasn't...
even right when the game started, people were sitting there, and I'm like, what are you doing?
And these people were just sitting at the generator playing. And I felt kind of silly. I was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? Are you actually going to play, get around and play?
Yeah, or are you just
is
chilling?
This, again, akin to people just kind of sitting in their car. And again, different people play different ways, and they're able to play that way. And I understand, if the weather's not great. The weather was amazing.
Weather was great.
I loved being out there. I had a blast. But that was one I was just like, oh, that was weird. But they could have had more food trucks. Again, the Mexican food carts were
they were the heroes,
saviors, the heroes there,
the MVPs.
They tided us over until we were able to get some really bomb food later.
And see, you guys ate. Me, I was just like, I have enough fat stores to last me. I just wanted water, which comes up to my next thing.
Yeah.
More water stations. There was
they
two.
Had the 2.
And then after that, I was like, where are they? They weren't clearly. They're on the maps, and we would follow the maps a lot. And I was like, where the fuck is this station at?
There was no signage. There was a little sign.
There was that little stand sign.
Yeah.
I was expecting to see those flags, like a Whalmer or something, just water here or something like that.
And they need that
because they had clear distinctions for all the influencers. And that's why I feel like Niantic kind of weirdly prioritized them over the players.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not saying that those people don't need some security. I think they probably do because I know people don't know how to control themselves.
Yeah.
On the flip side, there's also you don't want to have people fainting from dehydration. I think people fainting from dehydration is a lot more key.
Yeah.
Than.
Well,
that.
They had they had a medical tent.
They did,
and they had a couple of other tents for the staff and stuff like that too. Which shouts to them. But again, things like the water stations, we didn't know a flag with a Whalmer or something on it. Would have been perfect.
We walked into so many random areas.
Yeah,
trying to find it.
We walked in random places. It wasn't until it was we were kind of headed in the right direction anyway. We were looking at the map 1,000 times. Where's the water station? Where's the water station? I went to an information tent and I was like, where's the water station and what the fuck does it look like?
Yes.
And they were like, oh, it's this thing. You're going to see it. It has 4 nozzles on it, blah, 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 blah. They're like, there's one right, keep going, walking
down that path.
Past this bathroom area. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And we walked that way. We finally saw it and I was like, oh, that's what it looks like. Oh, there it is. And it felt like it was hidden even though it's in the middle,
it was. There was so many tents. That's where it kind of became confusing.
But even the other one, which is in that verdant earth area, we didn't notice it until the sun's going down.
I honestly think it was because there were so many people. It just got buried behind the crowd.
Yeah, but again, have a flag or something.
Yes,
Whalmer is one of the prominent
something tall
or whale lord or something
some sort of inflatable. To showcase it, one of the wiggly arm things could have been there.
Would have been sick if Whale Lord actually, because then you could have put a little Whale Lord on top, and that's where the water's coming from. Anyway, point is, so that was definitely one of those things. I was appreciative that they had them. They were better than I thought they would be. There just wasn't enough of them,
right?
And the signage for it was ass.
But the other thing was the park being so big. Obviously, that kind of added to it because we were wandering around where the fuck is this? It was a beautiful park. It just everything was so either clustered together or spaced out that in combination with so many missions
Yeah.
Because that's what pissed me off was I wanted all the missions to be available up front like the collection missions were. You could go to each section and know exactly what you had to do, but then the missions it was in 6 parts, each one had about 5 different activities.
Yeah.
They weren't all at once, so if you missed it, or say you had a rocket battle with Arlo or one of the people, that might be a battle you had to do later, and you'd have to run across or wait for a balloon to drop.
Well, one of the harder ones, like later on, there's like one that's like, and apparently it was random. I didn't realize that. I thought
it all switched
for everyone. It was like catch 5 steel Pokemon and 5 flying Pokemon. And we're trying to remember. Okay, the Swablues are out somewhere. I stupidly was like, oh, Trimeco Steel. It's not. But it's like Mawile was out.
Yeah.
But Mawile was a little bit more of a rare spawn compared to.
And see, mine was
the other ones.
Mine was dark and psychic type.
So dark and psychic for you. So, Zach had ground and rock. You know, and so we had to that should be in the same area. No, it was like one was in one area and the others were in the other area, and we had to keep running back and forth or getting to these things to do it. And again, it wouldn't retroactively. Oh, you've already caught 5 this, 5 that, which. On one hand, I get, but on the other hand, it's just like
it should all be available.
It's really silly, or at least all the Pokemon spawn everywhere, or whatever. But yeah, so that was kind of obnoxious. Again, it forced us to walk more and play more, which is fine. And we were finally getting our groove kind of in the later part of the day anyway, so that was okay. But still, a little bit obnoxious because again, we didn't know what the next step were. And yes, I know people data mined it, and we could have looked it up or whatever. But
we used some of the data mine stuff for like the spooky ciphers. Yeah, I remember just shouting answers to some people.
The only one I just couldn't for the life of me remember was transfer. Like the R, I was like, what actionable word has R as the second letter, and there's going to be 5 of them? That didn't make any sense.
It could have been anything.
And I was like, oh, it's transfer 5 Pokemon. That was kind of an interesting way to do the ghosts.
It was.
So you had the spin stops that get spooked. They call them spooky ciphers, and this will be relevant because I think it'll be in the global version.
It'll probably be there.
But it's like the spooky ciphers, and it has like a bunch of different letters missing from the cipher, and like each of them is like 3 great curveball throws in a row for like Sableye. Transfer 5 Pokemon, use 5 berries to catch Pokemon.
Then evolve a Nincada.
Stuff like that. So that was an interesting way to do the ghost because we weren't playing at night. There was eerie mists, but there wasn't anything specifically for ghost type Pokemon.
Yeah,
and I kind of liked that. I was like, the ghost could be anywhere.
They
blah,
really
blah,
could.
Blah, blah. So that was cool.
And you could keep getting those missions, so you had more chances to get like. Because I think I got like a shiny Ninjask or whatever, or like Shedinja, sorry. And I was like, dope, and he's a hard one to spot. You have to like make sure you look at the little sparkle icon. But I thought those missions were good, and I liked the variety of stops because, again, the park, once it started, the park was flooded with stops. So that was nice. It was just hard to navigate all the time.
Yeah, and again,
figure out where you need to go.
I'll go back to the spin to stop in this section too, because there were 8 specific spin to stops throughout the park, and there was basically 2 in each region or whatever. But again, some of that was we didn't go in, there wasn't in any order. Like we started in Ancient Shores and we ended up spinning I think number 3 and number 7 or something like that.
Yeah,
and you're just like, okay, that means there's 6 more out in the wild. We got to go find them. Apparently there was a map over by the charging station that showed each spinda.
And
it was
we never went by the charging station.
We didn't go by the charging station, but I kind of like the fact that we discovered the spin to stops. It made it more interesting. Where it became an issue was later on, as Zach was like, because he had connectivity issues for like spin to stop 2 and 8.
Yes,
and we were trying to remember. I remembered one specifically. Because that's where you were struggling to connect. I didn't remember what the other one was.
Oh yeah,
and like towards the end there was like that dude and his son. And his son was like, we need to find spin to stop 8, and neither of them knew where it was. And there was 20 minutes left in the event.
Yeah.
So they were like going to run frantically through the entire park to try to find that stop. So again, on one hand, I like the adventure of it, and I like that was kind of there. But on the other hand, it was just like, unless you knew about the map, or unless other people had a good memory to remember, spin to stop 8, that was the one over by the by all the porta potties.
Yeah, or by the Torchic.
Or by the Torchic, unless you had that, it was pretty tough because there was a certain quest. You had to spin all 8 to get the heart Spinda, the 9th Spinda. You got a shiny one.
I did. Thank you.
That's a great one.
It was. I was like, ooh, heartbreaker.
Heartbreak Spinda was great, but it does again, so that's why I kind of leverage that between good and bad.
Yeah.
Just because like on the plus side, I like the implementation of it. It's just like a little frustrating.
I kind of wish they would have refreshed frequently, or each area had more than just 2.
Yeah.
So you couldn't. Those people who had 20 minutes left could have potentially found it closer.
Well, and that's what I kind of thought it would be, almost like rocket stops or training, like where it's like, I thought stops turned into Spinda stops, and I was like, oh, okay, that's
that would have been
cool.
better.
It's right there, that's fine. I got my 8.
Similar to like the rockets could potentially be what you need, right there.
So, do you have any more on this kind of?
The last thing was just the clarity about remote raids and primal candies. Could have been better. So, where we kind of read was like, if you're in the park playing and you have the raid pass, or the raid pass, you get even more incentives, like the perks. But like, it's only if you have the Go Fest ticket, you get the primal candies.
Correct.
So it wasn't clear about that for like, if I can invite other people. The initial raid, we weren't able to invite people.
No, I think part of that was it filled up way too quick.
Yes, it was insane.
Because there were so many people.
And then connection issues. And then after the connection issue part, which I think was about 3-4 hours in, all of a sudden you were able to invite people to raids.
And then we even tried a
private lobby, and like it didn't show up for people, or they even glitched out.
And they said we were still fighting it even though we weren't.
We were having glitches where you'd be in the raid and your person wouldn't move, so you had to get out of the raid, hop back in, hope they didn't beat it yet,
restarts the raid
so you can get it. So that was a problem. But then afterward, when you're outside the park, you weren't getting primal candies despite it being a primal Groudon or a primal Kyogre.
Right, and that's what I was frustrated with.
That part sucked.
Because essentially the way it broke down was the event was supposed to end at 6.
Yes.
Now Saturday had a litany of issues, so there was a couple of things that Niantic did, and they announced it over the comms, and we kind of got a good understanding of it, even though we didn't hear about it. But they gave us 3 free remote raid passes and 3 free in-person premium raid passes.
And a lot of people didn't hear that, like being at the little Mexican cart. I was telling people, like, did you get your passes? Or like, when I'm like, restart your phone, grab this shit.
Doing remote raids was the better option for us to get those primal raids in, and that's so wild to me. And that's something I want to talk about after all this, because Niantic actually shadow dropped something about remote raids, but I'll get to that in a second. Anyway,
I think I saw it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. We'll talk about it in a second. Ooh. But with the raid stuff, it was like, we got in. The other thing I will say is, like, I get it, but the primal reversion costing 400 candy was wild. Cheap. And the fact that you still had, because they were tough raids.
They were tough as fuck.
Like
you weren't able to catch, and you didn't get golden razzes.
Yeah, well, you didn't get any golden razzes. And this is probably when you're ugly. But anyway, point is, they were tough. You only got like 70 to 90 candy per raid. So
90 max was the highest.
90 was the highest, and that's if you had all 20 people kind of,
if you finished it
sped through it, quote unquote. There was a couple that we only got 70.
Yeah.
Just because it took that long, connectivity issues, etc. And then unless it was shiny, catching it was a fucking bitch.
It was a nightmare.
It was so bad.
I probably had like 4 or 5 run on me because I was just like, and that's throwing excellent curves.
That's a conservative number there too. Yeah,
like that's what pissed me off.
Using all of my golden razzes that they didn't replenish. And that's
they didn't even replenish like max revives.
No,
like my max revives are in the double digits, which for me, that's like a travesty.
Usually over 100.
I'm usually over 150. I'm in like the low 70s now.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, what the fuck happened to me?
And it wasn't until we did other raids later that we got some revives and golden razzes.
Yeah,
back.
Thank you, Rayquaza
but
raids.
Anyway, so they had the primal raids throughout the day, but again, they were tough because you're like, do I want to keep catching or do I want to go into the raid? You bought the raid add-on, you want to take advantage of that.
Yes.
So, we tried to do the primal raids. They were difficult raids, hard to catch, connectivity issues, didn't get a lot of candy from them, definitely didn't get like some of the items replenished, but,
we kept it pushing.
But that was the only, we kept pushing. That was the only way to get the primal candies because you can't get them in stops. You couldn't get them after the event ended.
Yeah,
which is obnoxious because
they'd be everywhere too.
Primal raids. So on Saturday they had to, because there were so many issues, and this is one of the things I wanted to get into, is Niantic blaming the player base essentially for all of their fuck ups.
That was kind of funny.
They were just like, yeah, it's the players' fault. It's like the Simpsons meme with Principal Skinner or whatever. He's like, no, it's the children who are wrong or whatever. You know, it's like that. That's what it felt like, because Niantic is essentially like, nah, it's you guys' fault that everything got fucked. It's your guys' fault that there's too many connectivity issues.
Yeah. They
tried to do some kind of Wi-Fi tower thing that didn't work very well. They had Wi-Fi posts throughout the entire park, but that was funky. And again, it's all unsecured connection anyway. So
it's like good luck, everybody.
You feel a little weird. I had connectivity issues getting onto it because I have to have a secure device because I use my phone for work.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I can't just
I was just using my data plan. I was like, good luck, data.
Jump onto like willy-nilly fucking Wi-Fi things. Anyway, point is, they're like, yeah, you guys fucked up. It's all your fault. And it's like, hey, but not really. Mm-hmm. So they gave us the raid passes and everything like that. But they're like, we're going to extend the city experience, which is essentially parks. So the stuff in the park's going to end at 6 p.m. And then the scheduled thing was Rayquaza raids were coming back. Normal ones, not Mega Rayquaza yet, but normal Rayquaza raids were coming back, this time with a new move, Breaking Swipe, which is one of his signature moves. So that was kind of neat, seeing Rayquaza back in raids again, and it was for an hour. It's basically a raid hour between 6 and 7 p.m. And then after that, they were like, okay, the in-city event will then extend until 10 p.m. This is where we still found a good amount of shinies. And that's when all the spawns kind of spawn in the same area, so you don't have to be in a certain area anymore. Yeah. But there were primal raids out, and there were a lot of them. And we're like, well, let's keep trying, because we can still get shiny Kyogre and shiny Groudon. And we thought maybe let's try it to get more candy. Nope. Yep. They said, fuck you.
Specifically primal candies.
The primal candies, the primal energy is what we were looking for. Because you needed 400 per to do the primal, and I only had enough to do one Groudon, and I only, because there was a lot more Kyogre raids, and I had enough to do 2 Kyogres, but I couldn't do, I could only do the one Groudon.
When you guys were waiting for the Mexican food, I was doing nothing but raids. I was just on both phones because it was the only time we stopped.
Yeah.
Like, really consistently stopped. And yeah, it was tough for that. And that's where it did suck. It shouldn't have been 400. It should have been 200.
Or 300. Because Mega Latios and Latios are 300.
Well, now at least you can walk them if they're buddies. Yeah. And you could acquire Mega or Primal energies. So that's at least nice.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of going forward into the uglies.
So some of the things we definitely did not like about what happened.
Kind of just echoing or continuing on with the communication about the errors and blaming the people. Was also kind of the players' entitlement that you had talked about. A lot of players I saw kind of being like, well, it's a free park. I can go if I want to. There's literally no benefit, bro.
Yeah, like Sunday they were literally pleading people. If you're not playing in the event, you don't have a ticket for Sunday or whatever.
Like, there's no benefit.
There's no benefit for you. Please just don't go there. You see a lot of people are already there. If you're a Pokemon Go player, there's no reason for you to be there other than to, like, I guess you're trying to be, quote, social, unquote, with whomever, but they're trying to play and you're not. So it's kind of weird.
There was no real point for that. Obviously, I'm not okay with them blaming the player base for a game that the players support all the time, so that was funny. Traversing the area, so it was really bumpy, and again, I'm able-bodied, so I can walk around and stuff, but like there's a lot of folks in wheelchairs, that kind of caught me off guard. I think there was more than what I saw in Chicago.
Yeah.
And a lot of sidewalks were not ADA friendly. There was a lot of bumpy ass terrain. And there's also, with the player base, a lot of inconsiderate players. And I'll say a lot being the 2%. Not everyone was horrible. But 2% of players, you'd have people blaring music from speakers. That was annoying.
They specifically asked you not to do. Yeah. Not even just Pokemon Go players. That's just like a park rule they want you to do.
Like, it's a nature area. Like, there's wildlife that's out there.
Or like, we're running into people that have the one wheels or longboards and stuff still.
Like, someone flung out their fucking, what was it? What are those called? Like, they're like the scooters, but they're not. They have like the 2 wheels and they have a long handle that you could like.
It's almost like a Segway, but
Yeah, but like the old school one. It's not a Segway necessarily. It has two wheels. Like,
those are scooters, right? Like Razor scooters?
Yeah, like a Razor scooter. She like whipped it out in front of me, and I'm like, bitch, what are you doing?
Almost took out your ankles.
Yeah, like just inconsiderate people like that. The other thing was just people, again, not everyone thinks about it, but like if you have to stop off of the sidewalk. Like there was plenty of pull-off space.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But people just stop right in the middle to catch. Like there's people there having conversations. I'm like, get off the road.
Yeah, it is just like a group.
Yeah.
It'd be like 8 people just stopping
like,
in the middle of the sidewalk.
There'd be people walking at a crisp like 0.001 kilometers per hour, and like I remember just kind of beelining it through people. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
I tried to say excuse me a lot,
and had to do the spin move to get through people. It was wild. Again, not everyone, of course.
Not
but
everyone.
Like, there were a lot of instances where it's just like I just need to get through this group of people to get over here.
Yeah.
Or when we stopped, we'd pull off to the side.
Pull all the way
we're
off.
trying to do a raid. We'll pull off to the side.
That's where like being in the desert hurt my feet a lot because there was a lot of just literal sand,
uneven sand, rocks,
and so you're just
the
mounds of sand would just hit your arch of your foot, and you're just like, damn it, no.
Yeah, it's just like that nerve.
That area
specifically.
Yeah, my foot was like, you need a fucking rest.
I don't like this. Yeah.
And then obviously the entrance and exit of the park was a person in a wheelchair. Obviously they're not. I'm sure if they had the choice to walk, I'm sure they would choose it. But the sidewalks either A, didn't exist, or B, there was gates on the sidewalk, which ADA says can't be there. You have to allow a 4-foot clearance, or at least 3.5.
3 foot, at least.
And it wasn't that. And there was like sandbags on it, so it created extra obstacles, and we're all like single lining it in the fucking dark, trying to make it like
lining up against this fence and stuff like that.
So like them extending the hours to like 10, being in the park would have been a fucking shit show.
Yeah, they didn't
because of all
lighting.
the uneven terrain. It was so dark. It was dark. Like we left at the nick of time, basically.
Yeah.
Because it was starting to get dark. People were flooding across the streets. Like, I remember I was walking, and one car even turned in front of me.
Yeah.
As we're walking to the park, like, before even the chaos started, they pull in front of me, and I'm just, like, raising my hands, like, we have the walk.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you just whipped in front of me. Like,
that was wild.
Could have took me out. I was pretty pissed, and people were, like, they usually just see the people, like, wow. And I was just, and again, that was before the chaos really started.
Yeah, that was before we even got to the park. You were crossing the street and to get into the park. I'm like, okay, this should be cool. No sidewalk. Oh, yeah, random. So we're just like, and I was walking with someone with a wheelchair. I was behind them too. They had to walk in the street, and it's only it's a one way both ways, like in terms of like car lanes too.
It's a 2-lane one way each way.
They were very narrow lanes, so it's just like, and this is supposed to be a main entrance to the park. It was
definitely not
the
typical size.
That was unfortunate for sure. So I don't know if you have anything else in the this department. But.
Other than that, it's just kind of like the last thing I'll say, and it was my personal enemy, was Latios and Latias.
Okay.
Anyone who encountered them, obviously,
I will say heartbreak.
Yes, one heartbreak and a lot of heartache. One heartbreak was I had a shiny Latios on Chris's account. It sat on the ball, and that classic error of it goes down and it focuses it on the ball, and then it's like it ran, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because shinies typically shouldn't be running, and I was standing still. And I restart my phone to be like, maybe this is just a glitch error, whatever.
Nope.
I restarted it, looked at it. It wasn't even in my journal. It's like it never even happened.
Never existed.
And so, heartbreaker.
So, again, we said in the good section or whatever, I loved that Latios and Latios were out.
Yes.
I hated trying to catch them.
Yes. Because trying to catch them, if they stayed, took 30-plus balls. And like we mentioned, you're not getting golden razzes and shit from your raids. So if you're wasting them all on them, and they were just not, like, the circle wasn't even turning green or yellow. It stayed red or orange.
We found a couple of level ones. It was like a 46 CP Latios or Latios.
Thankfully, I caught one of them, but, like, it was a shiny ones. Because shiny, I think, shouldn't run. So that one Latios that just ran,
I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I understand wild shinies can run on you, and you want to be careful about that. But like,
it's usually if you're going like past the speed limit, but they usually don't.
I'm just saying in general. Yeah, usually they don't. But it's just like, these are the legendaries, and again, it gave so many people anxiety. So this dude walked up to us because he had a shiny Latios on his phone, and he was buried, and he was afraid to throw the ball because he was like, "Hey, do you guys know if these are guaranteed catches?" He's like, "Because I threw a ball and it broke out, and I thought it might have been a glitch."
And I just looked at him,
and I just like, I'm sorry, and I verbatim, I was like, "I'm sorry to add to your anxiety here. They can run." We literally just watched it run on, and I pointed over at Jack, and it was like it ran on him, and it was heartbreaking.
Yes.
We ran into quite a few of them. It's kind of funny because I felt like they only spawned in like certain areas. There's like a ton in the Ancient Shores area.
Yes, I had a back-to-back shiny Latios, and I was like, no, God.
So they kept spawning there. But anyway, we ran into a bunch of them, and I caught a couple, but way more ran on me, is what I was saying. Yes. It's like if I ran into 10 of them, I caught 2 of them, and 8 of them ran on me, and I hated it. Yeah. I didn't run into any shiny, so I didn't experience that. I felt it from you and from other people.
I felt it.
But again, that was another point where it's like you spent so long trying to catch that one as you were walking up one of the main areas that you missed out on other Pokemon or other things.
Other stops.
Zach and I caught a perfect Chimecho.
I missed that.
And it was right there as an easy spawn, but you were still working on your Latios because it was so difficult to catch. Mm-hmm. And again, for me, I was just like, I was glad to have it, and I was glad to see it, and I really love seeing them in the wild. But like at the very least, if it's shiny, I think it should still be auto catchable like a raid.
Yeah.
Especially because if you're only going to release it in this event, I had to pay to be there to enjoy it.
I didn't pay to fight a
similar to a raid. Like I have to pay to do the raid. Maybe, and that's maybe why you justify why shiny legendaries or auto catches in raids or whatever. But it's just like. Yeah, like I said, the look on that guy's face went from instant,
distraught.
He was distraught. He was like, "Oh, this can run on me." And I did laugh at some of the other people that they ran into the shiny Latios or whatever
they were
on
happy.
Their phone, and they jumped for joy and exclaimed to 1,000 people, "Shiny Latios!" or whatever. And it was just like I was just like sitting there. And I'm like, "You haven't caught it yet, bro."
Yeah, you haven't. Because other people who were there with me at Ancient Shores were like, I'm on ball 30. I'm like, yeah. We're like 4 of us were standing in a cluster just trying to catch our Latios.
Back to that Nidoqueen back at Dratini
Oh my
Park
God,
days,
yes.
It's so difficult to catch.
Yes.
But it's just like,
fuck that.
Anyway, so that was one of those, like, again, good and ugly at the same time, because it's like, I love it being the wild. I still want it to be the wild. I would love to walk down the street, like I'm going to get my Pokestop for the day or whatever,
and it appears
fucking Latios. There's a Suicune right there.
Beautiful.
Fuck yeah, I'm catching
gorgeous.
That. And again, you kind of get a little bit of that with your daily incense or whatever. Miss me with the fucking bird catch rates, but anyway, right. I don't know. But the other things I wanted to get into, and we already kind of talked about it. Niantic blaming the players for the mishaps,
hilarious,
was really fucking silly. Again. They had a general idea. Okay, thousands of people are going because they sold that many tickets. But it's just like you had to have known these issues were going to exist because not one event that you have done in any capacity has been flawless from the start. And usually that first day is the most rough day. It's ironic because like in Chicago, our day was the rough day because of the weather, essentially.
Yeah.
But anyway, point is like there's like I feel like there's no contingency for them. Ever. And again, we're going to have the global event, hopefully to make up for some of those things, but it just felt like kind of fucky that they're just like, hey, it's the players who were wrong here. It's like, we can't even play your fucking game.
And again, I hope they think about it too in the sense of like, were all those missions necessary? Because I think a lot of people stayed because those missions were really hard to do. Yeah. So if you had less missions and to me, I think the mandatory easy ones are the collection ones and the fun spin-down ones. And if you're to do a mission like that, have it be a fucking 3-stepper or 3 trials and maybe 18 missions.
Yeah.
3 per of like catch these Pokemon here. Because the first ones were like take photos in these environments.
Yeah, and you had to be in the environment. Well,
easy.
Typically easy, however.
Yes,
in the case of like Zach, he couldn't connect.
Yes.
To the whole desert area was basically unplayable for him.
Yeah.
And so that was a major part of the game, a major part of this whole thing. So when I'd finished the photo ones earlier than you both did because I thought I was behind, so I was trying to catch up, and I didn't communicate that. I was like, oh shit, they're ahead of me. I gotta figure this out. And I did it, so I moved on to the next step, which was, I don't remember if that was the catch step, whatever. But anyway, point is like, I was already on the next step, and I lucked out because we were in an area that I could cover that. But again, Zach didn't. You didn't. We had to go back to areas to get the photo, and then it's like, oh shit, now we have to go across the park to get to these Pokemon to catch to hit this mission or whatever. Oh shit, the next step is, now I gotta go find my rocket. Some were so lucky, the rocket leader descended in a balloon and hit me. At least it wasn't like fight all 3 rocket leaders.
That was, yes, thank God. Like, that was one thing I was thankful I did as prep, and maybe this might be prep for this coming Saturday, if it will be new for you and you'll have missions, is make sure your egg basket is fucking empty. Make sure you have at least 3 missions, 3 field researchers ready to go so you can cash them out, but sit on them. If it requires it, great. Like, I was glad I had an extra Nincada ready because we weren't even in the environment for Nincadas, but we all had one.
Yeah, evolve a Nincada, yeah.
Yeah, because that was an unknown, but it just worked out in our favor.
Yeah.
Having some extra cash ready again for a rocket radar in case you needed it. Because usually balloons bring forth the ones you need, usually. Yeah. But I'm glad there was 3 of us, and again, not everyone had 3 different pairs of eyes looking at things.
Oh, and for those wondering, you had to finish that mission quest in the park on your day. Like there wasn't
so like
it ended on the day.
So like I'll say the Moors, Richie, and Miss Moore. They were telling me, or I heard more from Miss Moore, that like when they went back Sunday, it was just a lot nicer because all they did was focus on catching.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds marvelous. Like, I kind of wish we would have had that extra day just for that part. Just to kind of casually go about it. But it's okay. Lesson learned.
The way the missions work is it feeds into FOMO almost like.
Yes.
You have to do the mission right there, right then. Otherwise, you don't get whatever you want.
Yeah, and it wouldn't unlock the other mission for Jirachi.
It's going to be insane because you got... I was so fried at the end of the day that I read it wrong. I was freaking
you were
out.
Getting angry. I was like, Justin, no.
So just for those that don't know, you have to catch 385 of each, like basically each generation Pokemon. So Pokemon that originally spawned in Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn. And it's just 385 of each. So it's 1,000-something total Pokemon. I read that completely wrong. I thought it was you have to catch one of each Pokemon, 1 to 385, which would include all the legendaries, because that's how I read it. And so I was freaking out because I was like, how are we going to be able to catch all these fucking how am I going to be able to catch Celebi again or anything like that? That makes no fucking sense. Anyway, point is that's the first stage of a new mission to get your shiny Jirachi.
Yes.
Later on in that quest, spoiler alert, you're going to have to make 10 best friends. So have fun with that.
If you haven't already, like, and again, there's an excited trick you can do. It's like, I think feed a berry, pet them, take a photo, and battle like every 30 minutes to get them to excited. And you can get like 20 to 22 things, but I think to get to best friend, it's like 300.
It takes a minute.
So it takes some time.
If you're efficient with it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do that 10 times. So be
luck.
Wary of that. Jirachi, like the first Mew quest, like Celebi, it's supposed to be a long haul. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated with it. But anyway.
And again, those are just the first 2 missions.
The only way
2 waves of missions.
The only way to get there was you had to finish this quest in the park. In the day of the park. But anyway, Well,
no, I think you can buy it now too.
I think they unlocked it where you could buy it. But when we were doing that, that was the only way we could start the thing. And it's like, I already paid for this event. I want to get my money's worth. Might as well finish it.
Do
it.
So
like that kind of that FOMO there. So the other aspect that kind of pissed me off recently, and we'll see how it goes, because we kind of predicted that they want to phase out remote raid passes, even though remote raid passes literally saved their game. And for us, like even, in this event, we're supposed to be trying to do in-person raids. It was impossible. We had to get away from the gyms and then remote into the gyms to even get some of those primal raids done.
Yeah.
Insane to me. But anyway,
like remote raid within the park.
Like remote raid within the park, because we had to get to an area where we just weren't. Because any of the in-person raids, there's way too many people there, so all of the fucking connectivity issues just sprung up. Game would just freeze. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So remote raiding into those raids was way more efficient. Unfortunate, but anyway, that's the way we had to do it. Now they kind of shadow rolled out an update to it, which is you can only do X amount of remote raids per day. Period. So they put it in like the little open bracket, closed bracket thing, and they shadow rolled out, so like 0 was the number that everyone saw. So it's like you can only raid 0 times or remote raid 0 times today or something like that. So they're trying to put a
cap on it.
A cap on your remote raids, which again, in some instances, we kind of saw coming because they want to get rid of remote raids. On the other hand, it's just like, oh, I wanted to invite my buddies to the Rayquaza raids because they're out now and people want shiny Rayquaza. Oh, you can't because you remote raided. Oh, you weren't able to play and you had to remote raid. Oh, you only get 1 day. Have fun.
Well, and how I interpreted it as they'll do that, but it's like you said, like you only get those set number of chances to remote it. I think you could probably still invite people, but if they're used up their finite amount, that's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so I already did my 1, 2, 3 for the day that they're gonna max me out on. Not that I'm trying to use that many remote raid passes, but so I already did that because I'm out like in a different state for now, and there's an event coming on, and no one in my area is playing. I need to remote in, or something like that. Oh, I already maxed out my daily uses. Guess I'm gonna miss out on this entire raid hour because the people that I would raid with, I can't raid with now.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like they're going to pull like Netflix when they were trying to put out the password thing. They're going to walk it back to probably
they already have
to be like 20 raids.
They already updated it to remove the brackets. You have this many days remaining, but it is in their code, and they can always just turn that shit on whenever.
And again, we called that shit because they want people to return to in-person battling.
So, just make the raids better, and I'll do it in person. Yeah. Fuck it.
Make them better, give them better moves, increase your shiny chances.
Yeah, like the primal raids are fun, and that's because we wanted the primal energy, and you get a lot of bonuses when you have your primal Kyogre or Groudon out.
They just look badass.
They look cool, etc.
What would you recommend for the global event for players who this will be their first time seeing the Pokemon? What would you recommend?
So, batteries.
Sun hats.
Find a place, depending on what your weather is, where you're at, prepare for that. Sun hats, again, we went to Vegas, we knew it was going to be in the desert, you know, so we knew during the day the weather was going to be nice. Still packed a fucking jacket or a coat or something, because once that sun went down, we were freezing. So make sure you're prepared for your weather, make sure your devices are ready. Find a place, because it's global, they're not going to have the cool setup, they're not going to have the zones the way they are. I wonder if because it's global, it's just going to go to the hourly thing.
That's what I haven't seen yet.
Hour 1 is going to be Verdant Earth. Hour 2 is going to be Ancient Shores. Mm-hmm. I assume that's what they're going to have to do, because they're not going to be able to map out your zones everywhere in every city. So go to a place that you think has a good amount of stops, because there's going to be a lot of missions. For that mission, I think every stage had complete 3 missions or 3 researches.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have enough stops there. You're also going to want to maybe replenish on items. We ended up walking out with more Pokeballs than we came in with, but that's because 1, we weren't able to focus on catching, but 2, we spun a shit ton of stops. We didn't really open gifts. I would say if you're trying to do the egg thing, I think they still have the bonuses, so the egg passes and things like that.
I haven't
all the way
seen
up until the 26th.
Do they?
I think there's something along those lines. But either way, if you're trying to get those,
the other thing that was such a pain that we forgot was Kecleon and hitting him off of that motherfucking sign. So a recommendation would be for you, if you see Kecleon, knock his ass off as soon as you can, and make sure you're close enough to collect him.
Stand next to that stop, because I think however many Kecleons we knocked off and they never spawned or whatever, it was way too much.
It was so frustrating.
But yeah, so I would say definitely, like, for your egg space, if you're looking to get those regionals, clear your egg bag.
Yes.
Do not open gifts until you have like a full amount of egg spaces, because 7Ks are fucking useless in this event. 10Ks are great. Raiding, pay attention. Maybe have your online thingy on if you're going to do remote raiding or whatever, just to make sure like we can do invites and stuff. Because we're usually pretty good about that. The raids are tough, so bring some good counters.
Save all your revives. Save all your potions. If anything, also don't chuck all your berries.
Yeah.
There were some missions that required like razzes.
Yeah.
And I was so fucking glad. I was like, I fucking told you.
This one, it felt, when they mentioned remember the elite raids are coming back for the big Hoopa, Hoopa Unbound and stuff. These primal raids felt more like what elite raids should be.
Yes.
Just a lot more difficult. They're 92,000 CP
they were strong as fuck.
If you have a Groudon with like fucking Solar Beam,
all your done. Water boys are gone.
If you have a fucking Blizzard on Kyogre is just a death sentence.
Yeah,
and that's a holdover from old Kyogre anyway. But anyway, keep that shit in mind. Items, stock up on, again, if you're going to do more raids, your revives, golden razzes, try to stock up on those before the event, because we didn't get any from primal events.
Yeah, it was horrible.
You're going to have to do a few of the primal raids, so it's not like, I did my 3 primal raids, I'm done. No, if you want to get the primal reversion, which you're going to have to do one of those to complete the mission, you're going to have to get 400 of the primal candy, and we got 70 to 90
if you're averaging 70, then you're gonna need to do at least 6 of those raids.
6 of each, yeah. So keep that in mind. We did get a lot of daily passes. That was nice. So we didn't have to use.
I don't even think we maximized all of them.
I don't think I used any of my actual raid passes, my premium raid passes. I think I used just dailies. Yeah. So again,
I definitely use
wherever you guys are going to play, make sure there's ample gyms or at least raids that you can be invited, or if you want to be remote raided in, air supported on. Make sure your online thingy, that's helpful for us, or communicate with us and communicate with your teams ahead of time to be like, hey, I'm looking to do these primal raids. We need some help. Can you help us?
And you're going to need a lot of players. So I would say go to those dense areas. So if you're going to go to Wash Park, just know if there's a lot of people there, hopefully you don't have connection issues.
Yeah.
I don't imagine you would.
I imagine we'll be better off with the connection issues, which will make the game a lot more playable. But again, pay attention to weather. Pay attention, if it's going to be nice and sunny, sun hats. If it's going to be cold or whatever, hand warmers, dress warm, dress appropriately. Batteries, make sure they're charged.
Do your research if you want to know those field missions.
Yeah.
Because obviously New Zealand's going to get it before us. They're 20 hours ahead.
Yeah.
So if you want those little sneak peeks, pay attention to social media.
Yeah, and we'll learn a lot about that for sure.
Yeah, because we obviously didn't have the every hour transition of unknowns we were thinking could potentially happen.
Yeah, unknowns are actually pretty rare.
That might be something they might do. Who knows? They have yet to announce some of those more intricate details.
Yeah.
But again, clear out your fucking bag space. I was so thankful I cleared out my bag space, and even then I was clearing out bag space every... Yeah. I think after the first 4 hours, I was clear.
I had to a few times during the event just because of catching so many.
Yeah,
so.
Know your search parameters, how to search specific things and combo search, I think was helpful.
And there's a lot of resources on that. The other thing is, if you haven't already, there was some codes for the Reggies.
Oh, yeah.
Free codes to catch the Regirock, Regice, and Registeel, because those are Hoenn Pokemon. They didn't have those anywhere else. They're not in the wild. They're not in raids or anything like that. They're technically
they're not
rockets.
In the collection missions.
They have a raid hour, they had Regirock or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think the last one is Regice or something.
Yeah.
But either way, there was some free codes, so pay attention to stuff like that. We posted them in the Roar Masters. And those were really handy, so we were able to just do those, get our interactions with those. And I think they're doing little giveaways like that in general. So the only other thing is usually, I think Mega Swampert was a decent mega to have.
Yeah, because he boosted water and ground.
Because he boosted water and ground. So you got the benefits from both Kyogre, because Primal Kyogre is water only, and Primal Groudon is ground fire.
Yeah.
So if you had the Mega Swampert out or whatever, that was helpful for that. But yeah, outside of that, again.
Oh, and the buddy that can headbutt shit.
Yeah. If you have a buddy that's a great level or higher, I think, make sure, because it'll help with those catches. The other thing is like just be cognizant. It was a 6-hour event or 8-hour event.
8 hours.
10 to 6 p.m. I don't know what the global is.
I think it's the same.
But
range.
be wary of that. Make sure you're snacked up. Make sure you hydrate. If it's cold, warm outside, doesn't matter. Hydrate. Then prepare things. Prepare your breaks. Make sure you guys are playing comfortably, etc.
Have comfortable walking shoes.
Yeah, your walking shoes are massive here. Because even in the global event, you're still going to need to walk to stops. You're going to need to walk to hatch eggs, etc. So that's really kind of the main things I have. Global event I think is going to be more like we've had the other GOTOUR Hoenn, GOTOUR Console, GOTOUR Johto, which were global events. And I think in order to get around the areas, they're going to, similar to GoFest as well, they're going to just do it by hour. So the first hour will be this. So that might be obnoxious when it comes to that mission. I don't know.
So just pay attention to your missions. If it requires you to take photos of your buddy doing something, make sure your buddy is good. If you have the missions to walk a buddy, make sure it's a 1 kilometer per candy really buddy. Easy.
And again, it's the special catches one. So catch 5 steel, 5 dark, 5 psychic, whatever.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they don't have one of those Pokemon spawning in each biome, essentially. So just be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah.
And use your incense, use your lures. I would say if you're going to lure after the event starts, just in case we run into however many lure issues.
Yeah, and please just use your regular lures.
Yeah, we don't need mossy or steel lures.
Yeah, because they will literally spawn other Pokemon. Like I remember during the event,
like Tangulas.
I was getting spawned Tangulas, Venonats. Someone had, it was like Magnemites.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it helped for like the steel things, yes, but like I could have been spawned Pokemon that are part of that biome.
And you're going to be playing in an area with a few more trainers, at least coordinate it. Be like, hey, I'm going to drop this stop here, this stop here, this stop here, or something
like
along
those lines.
Spread them out. And then that way you're just coordinating with people, because if you just kind of drop them willy-nilly and you change all the stops into that's going to kind of fuck up the gameplay for the event. I don't know if you had any other thing to add to that. Do you have anything else for the people?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. Again, just pay attention to your missions. I think that was one of my biggest takeaways, is I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have, and I apologize while we were there. I was like, sorry I wasn't looking at this like I should have been.
Oh, it's fine.
And it was just because obviously I was juggling 2 phones, and again, that's a personal choice.
Well, and again, I don't know, like part of it is like we were kind of excited ahead of time because like, oh, you're working with Team Go Rocket. No one paid attention to the story or anything like that. It's just like, I need to get through this shit. It's telling me to go do this, telling me to take photos, whatever. But like, yeah, pay attention. And then now we have a lot of that data out there. You can pay attention. I didn't know what the missions were going to be, so I didn't know what to look for. I was kind of playing in the moment or whatever. But again, I thought I was behind. I didn't communicate that either. And I was just like, yeah, fuck it. I'm just doing the next part of the mission. I'm just doing what it tells me. But be wary of that and kind of plan ahead of time, especially if you don't think you're going to play the entire 8 hours. If you only need to play half the day or something like that, there's opportunities for that. And similarly to what happened at the end of the day, so between 6 and 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday will be Rayquaza raids. So make sure you kind of get ready for that if you're still looking for the big black dragon. And it comes with Breaking Swipe, which is a signature move, a very good move. The other thing with the primal raids, you're like, I already have Kyogre and Groudon, which you can use those for primal recursion. However, the primal raids get you access to 2 very good moves: Origin Pulse for the Kyogre and Precipice Blades for the Groudon. So I would recommend doing those. Always a good opportunity to get new shinies. I got a new shiny of both. Really happy with that.
Lucky.
And then just trying to get more candies for them too. The other thing I was really happy with, I'll add this on my last thought on the good. If you are hatching eggs, I got so many fucking candies from hatching eggs. Like I said, out of those, I ended up with, I think there was 1 egg I hatched. It's like, you got 92 Tropius candy from 1 egg or something like that. I'm like, excuse me? So now I'm well into like the 1500s for candies for each of those regional Pokemon, and I have a ton of XL. I think I got 150 XL candies for each of those.
Sweet Jesus.
So I'm on my way to making those my best friends, or like maxing them out, or whatever.
Yeah.
Things
reasonably
like that.
so.
So anywho, I know this is a really long episode. We had a lot of thoughts. I like the event. You give it a grade. Would you letter grade it?
I would say probably just the event itself.
Yeah.
I would give it like a good B+, A- range.
Okay. I like that.
The people and the city, I give like the Las Vegas itself. I give an A.
Yeah,
A+ if you count the food, which we didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
The players itself, I would say, is a C because we need to definitely work.
That's just Pokemon Go players in general.
Just being better. Yeah. Niantic's PR, I'll give like a C.
Yeah.
Also because them blaming the people was not the smartest move. But giving the notice of like, please don't come to the park, I thought was a good consideration thing. It's just people were like, it's America, I can do what I want. I'm like, there goes that entitlement again. Here we go.
At the event, the communication was fun because they talked about the Rayquaza raids.
Yeah.
Oh, in roughly an hour, we feel like Rayquaza is going to descend from the skies and all this other stuff, and so I thought that was kind of neat, little flavor win there. But
like, is he?
Real big, quick shouts to, again, you're not listening, but Keith Lee, his food reviews are excellent. Go watch him. Very genuine person. Led us to Aroma Latin American cuisine.
Delicious.
Such good food. We also went to this place called Big Mama's Wings and Things or whatever.
Totally random.
The food was excellent. Shouts to Little Mama in there. She's making desserts. She's trying to get that kind of up off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Had a really good peach cobbler, a really great strawberry crumb cake, things like that. So if you're in the Vegas area, check out Big Mama's with Little Mama's desserts, and then check out Aroma. And then we also went to Frankincense. They are extremely popular and really busy right now, but it was well worth it.
Yes.
Just a quick shout out if you're going to get a calzone or anything like that. It is literally a pizza folded in half, and not a little baby pizza.
Gigantic.
It's a full ass pizza, whole ass big boy pizza folded in half.
Yes.
And it was excellent.
It was
so shouts to them, shouts to you. Had a good time. I agree with all your grading. The only other question I had for you is, if a Pokemon had to do your taxes, which Pokemon would it be?
I'd pick Alakazam because he's smart as fuck.
Right. I was thinking Mr. Mime. Got it.
Nice.
Anyway, love you guys. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.